Good morning. If you are okay to connect, show your video, that'd be great. Yep, I'm Joe here. I'm from Singapore. Nice to have you here. Rhonda, hi.
Hi, Joe. Nice to be
Hi.
here.
Thank you for being here. Where are you from?
I'm from Queensland, Australia.
Right.
Mount Tamborine, which is just behind the Gold Coast.
Wow, nice. And you are a therapist? Rhonda, you're a therapist, counselor?
I'm a lecturer in counselling.
Nice.
Yeah, but I'd like to set up my own counselling practice.
Thanks. Nice. Hi, Judith.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, nice to have you with us. Are you also from Australia?
Yes, I'm South Brisbane.
Okay.
Also sunny Queensland.
What time is it there now?
11:20.
Okay.
Whereabouts are you?
I'm from Singapore.
All right. Yep.
Yeah. Those who would like to speak, you have to unmute yourself, and yeah, feel free to connect. We'll be starting in about in about 7-10 minutes time.
Hi, everybody.
Good morning.
Good night.
Good evening.
Yeah.
Now
I'm in
let's
Jamaica.
start. Oh, wow. No kidding. Fantastic.
I'm from Jamaica.
Wow.
Great being here.
And what time is it in Jamaica?
It is now 8:23 p.m.
PM.
Right. So I'm about getting ready to go, sleep. I've been at this conference in the Americas and then I just jumped over to Australia.
Oh, wow.
It has been fantastic. But I wanted to hear this particular session.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. And what do you do, Vincent?
Huh?
What do you do again?
Oh, I'm a counselor educator. I train school counselors.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes, and I'm the only one in my faculty that is of the solution-focused orientation. And so, I really needed to sharpen my skills.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Can learn from each other, definitely.
Most definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else would like to introduce yourself while waiting? Just a quick shout out where you're from, what you're doing. I'm Joe here from Singapore.
Hi, I'm Siu Chong. Sorry, I just joined in late. I'm Joe's colleague working in Singapore as well.
Yep, also from Reach, yes.
I need to understand what the acronym REACH is.
Oh, okay. Reaching earnestly. Actually, the original, there's two definitions to it. Yeah, one is reaching earnestly as Christ heals. Yeah, so that is the definition because the organization that set up Reach is actually a church, Grace Assembly here in Singapore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Hi, Troy.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Nice to see you.
Yes, nice to see you too.
Wow. How's things there for you, the prison?
Okay, getting used to all the changes due to COVID.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, my team, yeah, is also like getting used to it, and with the mask, with the face shields and all, trying to do the sessions.
We should clarify that Troy is not an inmate.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I work in the prison.
In the prison service, but not as an inmate.
Yep.
Wonderful. Nicholas, you're from New Zealand? Oh, Nicola, sorry.
Yes, I am. Hi.
Hi, you have a very nice picture there. Is that your organization or?
No, those are just my children.
Oh,
Those are
okay,
three of my 5 children.
I see. Right. Now, what do you do
So
professionally?
I'm based in New Zealand, and I'm a social worker in school. So I work across 3 schools in my community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nice. Okay. Okay, for those who are just tuning in, we are about to start in 3 minutes time. All right. And yeah, the team here from Reach Community in Singapore is going to be sharing our research findings and our progress. To those who are watching on Facebook Live as well, also, yep. Hi, nice to have all of you with us online. Hi, Catherine. Nice to see you again. Catherine,
Hi, Joe.
this is the I mean, besides my colleagues, I want to introduce you to Debbie. Debbie, Catherine is from Australia.
Hi, Debbie. Hi, nice to meet you.
Yeah, Debbie is one of the ones that we've been constantly connecting with for SF here in Singapore. So she's the one that I wanted to connect you with.
Yes. I went and had a look online when you mentioned Debbie and your solution focused training and that in Singapore. Yeah. Hi, Debbie. I've been coming to Singapore for 5 years for work. Unfortunately, not now.
Yeah.
But still lots of great connections over there.
Sure. And you're where are you in Australia?
Sydney.
Sydney. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So we can connect offline maybe.
Love to. That'd be great. Yeah. Thank you.
If you can maybe post your email on the chat.
Sure. Yes, I will do.
Yep. And for those who are here in this room now, if you would like to connect or stay connected with me and with the larger group who is here and to network and all, feel free to type in your email addresses. Yeah. So my team will help to consolidate and send some of these materials after the session. Hi everyone. Welcome. Hi Emma, nice to have you here. We have quite a number from Australia, I think.
Great.
Yeah. Okay, it's 9:30, so I'm just going to start, but maybe let me just start with a little bit of just connecting and know who is in the room. Okay, so I'm going to be doing a little poll just to find out and to hear who is in the who is in the room. So I have 3 questions for everyone. Please go ahead and put in your options. Where you're from, what time is it for you currently, and how are you feeling now?
I'm actually in the Caribbean.
Oh, wow. Is that one of the options? No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Oh, no.
So I'm not
Okay.
in North America. I'm not in South America.
Oh, no.
Well, I'm right between. I'm right in the middle there.
I see. Okay, we missed out one. Sorry.
Okay. So in terms of geographical reach, I'll just click North America. That's where I'm closest to.
Okay. No option for New Zealand. Oh, sorry.
Yep.
We're not from Australia. Nah.
We don't have an other.
Okay, those who just came in, thanks for logging in, thanks for tuning in. So right now we're just doing a little, just to see and to find out who is in the room. So please key in your options, your entries. We're gonna hold for another 30 seconds. And those who just came in, please feel free to leave your email addresses in the chat box. We will be, definitely if you wish to stay connected with us and the team, and also for us to kind of like just send you some of these materials after this email, after this session. Okay, let's ending the poll. All right. Okay, so let me just share the results. Okay, to see who is in the room. Okay, so we have, we have people from Asia, definitely. So there's about half the people in the room from Asia. And then we have quite a number from Australia / New Zealand. Sorry, New Zealanders, I missed you out. We have one person from Europe. Who is that again? Sorry, who is from Europe here? And which part of Europe again? Or who is that few from North America?
Manchester.
Oh, that would be Winsome.
Uh-huh.
I'm from Jamaica in the Caribbean.
Okay. Okay. And Andrea, you're saying something? You're from?
Oh no, somebody from Manchester, UK, by the looks of it. I'm in New Zealand.
You're in New Zealand. Okay. Nice. Okay, so we have people from all different time zones. So there's a large number of us in the morning currently for us, and some in the afternoon, some in the evening, some in the wee hours. Okay, so those who is there in the wee hours of the morning, hang in there. Glad you're so excited to be still awake and to do this with us. Okay, how many people is feeling curious? Yeah, there's quite a number of them, quite a number of you. Okay, sleepy, okay, try to stay awake. Okay, excited, happy, hungry, okay, yeah. Okay, thanks everyone for tuning in. Okay, so once again, introduce myself. I'm Joel. I'm actually the head of youth service at Reach Community Services. Okay, so I have my team here who is actually with me. So let me, but before I introduce, let me just, can I get my team to help share the slides? So just to give you a context again for what you're in for. Okay, so this is a research that we have done, okay, in our agency by a few partners together. All right, so we title our research to be from feeling hopeless to hopeful. Okay, and this is really a research that we did to understand, to get insights into our training, okay, from training to implementation, okay, of solution-focused practice in a Singapore youth agency. Okay, so let me just introduce the team who is in this. Next slide. Okay, so the team, the research team, really consists of all these people here. Okay, so myself, I'm Joe. Okay, so I'm heading the youth service. So let me just introduce Debbie. Just say a little hi.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here.
Yep, Debbie is the Managing Director of Academy Solution Focused Training here in Singapore. So later we'll hear a lot more from her in terms of how she's involved. Okay, and I have Joanna, who is my colleague in the same team as I am. She is a social work associate. So Joanna, say hi.
Hello everyone. Nice to meet all of you.
Yep. So later Joanna will be presenting a segment of it. So yeah, you'll hear more from her. And we have Jin Yao, who is a researcher, PhD candidate at UCLA currently. So Jin Yao.
Hi everyone, it's a pleasure to see everyone virtually. I'm currently working on my PhD in social welfare in UCLA, but I do hold a joint appointment with the National University of Singapore. I work with adolescents from low-income families, mainly in Singapore for now.
Great. And then we have definitely the rest of the team who are actually the research interns who has been involved in this project, this research, all the way from phase 1. Okay, before we even started, and all the way even to currently phase 2. So as you can see, there's actually quite a lot of people involved, and these interns who definitely play a big role with this whole research project. So currently, I have 3 of them who is still currently doing the internship with us. So Timothy, Liu, and Ian, can I get you all to just say hi and introduce where you're from?
Well, hello everyone, I'm Timothy. I'm currently studying social work in NUS, and I'm an intern with Reach.
Yep.
Hi, I'm also an intern. I'm studying social work at a different university from Timothy, but also in Singapore.
Mm-hmm. And last but not least, Ian.
I'm Ian. I'm also a social work intern with Reach from SUSS.
Great. Okay. Thank you. That's the team. Please, feel free to connect with any one of us, and stay connected. Yeah. Okay. Next, let me just move on to a little bit about who we are. Okay. But before that, let me just give you a breakdown of what we will cover in this session. Okay. So in this session, we're going to cover these 3 aspects. Okay. First of all, we're going to introduce who we are, what we do at Reach, and also this project. Okay. Then we're going to share about what this whole SF research is about. Okay, we're going to share a little bit of the timeline, the lead review, and then we'll move on to the phase 1. So we will share the phase 1, our findings, and what we have actually found out, and share with you all certain themes. And phase 2, then we go on to share on that, which we are currently at. Okay, we're going to share about what we are curious about. Okay, and then finally in the last segment, we will have some Q&A. Okay, so let me just jump into the introduction. Okay, so let me just introduce, give you a context, okay, of who we are. So my team is actually from the youth service, okay, youth service arm of the larger community, Reach Community Services Society. So Reach Community is the overarching organization that we are one service, one of the service. Okay, so these are the 4 key programs and services that we actually provide. So we do community engagement, we do school-based outreach. We actually have a lot of youth development programs. Okay, so we have a range of that, all the way from sports, all the way to arts, to music, and to baking. And so the other thing that we do is we actually have a very active and outreach, strong outreach in the prison system. So we work very closely with the prison system and some of the other institutions like the boys' home here in Singapore. One other thing that we do is we also have casework and mentoring. So we are really based in the community. So not so sure if you have been to Singapore, but my center is located in the heartlands, so where the public housing is. So we are actually located like underneath the blocks and the flats where the families stay. Yep. So in Singapore, we call this the HDB flats. Yep. So this is the setting that we are in, and we have a youth center that's located in Singapore, in the western part of Singapore. Okay, next. So this is the range of the programs that we have and that we run. So as you can see, yeah, so this is our little youth center here where, okay, this is pre-COVID, just to just to say, where we had a lot of programs, activities running, and we make use of that little space that we have in the center. So we run all kinds of sessions, activities. So this is the basketball court that is actually outside at the lower left of your screen, the picture there. So that is the basketball court that's actually just outside our center. So we run a lot of sports outreach activities there as well. So the bottom right picture that you see, that is actually one of our sessions that actually took place. We found in one of our partners' premises, which is a hotel, Fullerton Hotel. So we do a lot of baking, culinary, yeah. So you can see there, Rich Bakerholics. So my colleague here, Jana, is the one that's heading it. Jana, say hi.
Hello.
Yeah, so, yep. So you want more recipes on cupcakes and brownies, we can share that with you. Okay, next. Let me just move on to, okay, why SF and why research? Okay, so let me just share with you the whole, what made us want to do this in the first place. So why we actually did this was because we want to understand the fit of SF, solution focused approach, within our agency setting. Okay, we wanted to find out if there is a fit. Okay, so between this approach, this model, and between the people practicing it and the people receiving the service of the practitioners. So these were the few things that actually we kind of like found out, or that we thought about. Okay, that SF training, okay, we want to see how it is actually very useful, because the fit of solution focused approach with the way that we want to actually our vision and our mission. So our vision and our mission is really to see how we can activate the strengths and the potential of the young person. So we wanted to really understand and find out whether that fit there, okay, with the approach and our mission and focus. And then we also realize, or we really want to find out whether is there a fit in terms of this approach and the clientele that we are serving. So as you all can see, we actually serve the youth clientele. So we can actually be going as young as, talking about 6, 7 years old, all the way to mid-20s. So they are like 24, 25, you know. So we wanted to really find out, you know, whether there is a fit with the clientele group that we are serving. And we did this research, and also to really and to see how, when we actually implement solution focus in a youth agency, we wanted to see how it can help us increase the alignment within the team. Okay, which later we will be sharing a little bit about the research findings from the phase 1. We want to see how, when we actually implement the approach, you know, be trained, the whole team is being trained. We want to see how that actually helps with the alignment. Okay, and we also wanted to see how this actually gives the whole team of us a common lingo and a common frame of reference when we are communicating, when we are talking, when we are having team meetings, when we have case discussions and conferences. Yeah. So this research that we are actually doing is really because we want to understand the fit. Okay, at different levels, at the clientele level, at the team level, and of course at the agency level. Okay, so next. Okay, so the research part. Okay, so to understand the fit, So what we realized that, okay, in order to understand the fit, we have to see how we can actually systematically gather information. Okay, right from the start, where the practitioners are going through training, going through their learning process of the framework of the model. So we started to put our eyes and our ears starting at that stage where people are being trained, people are being, learning, going through the whole process. So we systematically gather information. We want to find out what is the process like, okay, and what is the experience like from the practitioner's point of view. And then from there, we want to understand what is working. Okay, so the whole research is we want to understand what is working and how can we actually improve. Okay, next. Okay, so this is the larger, bigger picture that we are actually talking about. So we want to really start at the bottom, okay, because the place where practitioners start learning their knowledge, gaining their knowledge, learning their practices, honing their skills, this is the starting point. Okay, we want to put our focus on how is it that they are learning, what they are learning, and how is it the learning, has actually impacted the practitioners. And then we move on to putting our eyes to study how are the practitioners actually providing the service, how are they actually applying the framework. So this is really about the application portion of things. And then finally in the phase 3, which is the later part, actually starting from phase 2, we want to put our eyes on the service users, okay, the ones whom the practitioners are actually serving. So how does the service translate to impact? Okay, because we know that in, at least for us in Singapore, and later on in the region, which my team will present in terms of the lead review, we know that there's a lot of impact studies, okay, a lot of efficacy studies that's already being done for the solution focused approach. But we are not very sure whether is that really what you, I mean, if you know or you can find out that solution focus is being effective, all right, it is great, definitely. But we want to know what is it that at the implementation, this whole process, what is it that contributed to this impact? Okay, so basically we want to understand the whole implementation process. We want to study the implementation, which is really implementation science. That is so exciting because for us, we want to know not only that solution focus works, okay, but we want to know what is it that is about implementation of solution focus at the agency context, and that actually leads to the effectiveness of the approach, the practice on the service users. And then later on, my team will share how we're going to carry out this research. And yeah, so next, now I'm going to highlight who are the people that's involved in this research so far since phase 1. Okay, so definitely ourselves, Reach Community Services. So all the interviewees, that the practitioners, the context that we're talking about, okay, the sample size is all coming from our agency, Reach Community Services. So again, we are based in Singapore. Okay, so it is a just for your info, also it is actually considered as a non NGO. Okay, so it's a charity. We're not with the government, so we are one of the NGOs, the many NGOs here in Singapore. Yep, and we are very honored to have Academy of Solution Focus Training to be one of our key partners. So Debbie, who is actually the one who actually conducted, later on you will know that she conducted the level 1 and level 2 SFBT training. And we are also very happy and honored to have Austrian Solution Circle to be supporting this research. Yeah, so they have actually come on board to actually fund the phase 2 portion of this research. So that's very helpful and very useful, because it could support some of the costs where we talked about. We're going to reimburse the participants with a token and also the transcript costs. Yeah. So moving on, Now I'm going to invite Timothy to share with us the overview of this SF research a little bit more. Timothy, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Joe. So what Joe has just shared is more of the agency context in which this piece of research is taking place in, and what this research means to our agency. But what significance does this have for the larger scientific community? So allow me to share briefly with you an overview of the existing research and how this research piece addresses a gap in literature before sharing a bit more about the research itself. So in general, research on training and implementation of solution focus or SF in Asia and Singapore is very limited. A large proportion of the existing studies within Asia actually focus on the effectiveness and application of SF among various Asian countries like Japan, China, Taiwan, Philippines, Singapore, and Hong Kong, to name a few. And this study generally show that SF can be adapted to be useful within the Asian context, since the existing research highlights certain alignment of SF beliefs and practices with Asian values. For instance, SF being present and future focused, as well as placing an emphasis on what is working instead of trying to understand the nature of the issue, aligns with the Asian values of face-saving and pragmatism. While SF questioning tools like relationship questions are suitable and applicable, given that Asians generally are known to be collectivistic and family-oriented. There are a few meta-analyses done in China that have reviewed SFBT's general therapeutic effectiveness in the next slide, which shows that it is effective in working with youth and children in school settings, internalizing mental illnesses. But these studies have also shed light on the difficulty of isolating SFBT's impact on Asian clients, given that SFBT is typically used in tandem with other therapeutic modalities within Asia. When we zoom into the literature focusing specifically on Singapore, we realize that SF is being utilized in a variety of settings with different client demographics. For instance, youth and youth centers, children in schools, community and mental health settings, speech therapy, and even organizational management. But trying to find literature that highlights certain best practices of SFBT training in Singapore, or shows how practitioners utilize and weave SFBT into their practice is rare. These preliminary reports have given some insights into the implementation, like the contextualization of scaling and miracle questions, the usage of language, and being aware of stigma of help seeking. But these studies generally tend to be self-reported and anecdotal in nature, so they are sort of lacking a scientific analysis and rigor. Hence, we are trying to research this piece which addresses the gap that we identify and see. You have been hearing us say phase 1 and phase 2, and here is what it actually means. So the whole research piece is split into 2 phases currently, and there might be more phases to come. But the first really focuses on the training of SFBT in Singapore, so how it's best executed and what is helpful for practitioners. But the second focuses really on implementation. So a few months after that training that they have received, how do the practitioners continue to utilize SFBT, and how is it perceived by their beneficiaries? Okay, the next slide will show the timeline, and as seen, the phase 1 of the research has already been completed early this year, around March. So where we are now is that we have laid the groundwork for the phase 2 of research, and we'll be moving on to collect the data and analyze it in the coming months ahead. So let me move on to share with you a bit more about the phase 1 of our research. Okay, the aim of this research is really to understand how the practitioners perceive SF training and how they foresee SF to impact their work. With that in mind, we have 3 research questions. So the first is, what are the most important aspects of SFBT training program for practitioners? The second is, how do practitioners learn SFBT most effectively? And last is, how would SFBT be applied? We investigated these questions through a mixed method approach, so using both qualitative and quantitative data, qualitative through interviews and quantitative through pre-post tests. So for the qualitative interviews, we conducted one-on-one semi-structured interviews with 16 practitioners, and who underwent the SFBT training course in November last year, which was conducted by the SF Academy. The interviews were then conducted from December to early this year, And these interviewees were actually quite diverse, as you can see from the next slide. So they come from a range of experience in SFPT, from those who are previously trained to those who are new to the modality. And they come from actually different departments. So they are not only youth workers and social workers who are the research participants, but also those from other departments like administration, finance, volunteer management. But these interviewees have the commonality in that they are all from the same organization, which is Reach Youth Service. So I'll be handing over the time to Joanna, who will be sharing with you more about the findings that came out from the qualitative interviews. Joanna, please.
Thank you, Timothy. So next, I will share on the themes and quotes identified from the qualitative interviews. As seen in the next slide, there are 3 key themes from the interviews that came up during the interviews. Practice is necessary for mastery over SFPT. And the second theme, all must be on board. And the third theme, practitioners need to apply SF skillfully. So in the next few slides, I'll be sharing on quotes that were shared by practitioners. And onto the first theme, the more you practice it, the more your mindset shifts. So this is a quote by a practitioner who took part in a training and shared this during the interview. So what does this mindset shift means? Is as seen in this slide, the ability to look at strengths instead of problems and to shape the conversation in a way that is more solution focused. And this requires a lot of practice, which helps us to rewire our thinking and to shift our mindset. So this theme about practice is actually echoed by many of the other participants in this research. For example, for the newly trained, on a scale of 1 to 10, when asked about their confidence level in using SF, one of them mentioned they would give themselves a 4, having the basic knowledge of SF through training, and a 5 because he or she is not practicing it so much yet. So the confidence to use SF comes with a lot of practice. And this sentiment is not only shared by the newly trained, even for the previously trained. So as seen here, they saw the value of this practice. For example, this participant said that role-playing gave him or her a chance to practice SF as it was a refreshing experience to recap the framework. So I will then explain more about this role-play. So when participants asked about their favorite segment of the training, the more useful and impactful to them was the role-playing. Okay, the previous slide, sorry. Yes. So this really got them to take on a conscious effort to put on the SF mindset as a practitioner, as well as to take on the position of the receiving end of the client, to visualize and experience how the client actually feels. So for me, when I attended the SF training, we had to bring in our own struggles during the role play, and it was an interesting experience to see how SF questions can work on my own issues, and it gave me a very different perspective. This was how role playing is very significant during the training in helping us to practice. And on to the second theme in the next slide, where everybody needs to be on board. So one participant mentioned that it is due to the varying beliefs in SF with different people, it was important to have the whole team on board to apply SF. So speaking from my own experience, when I joined Reach You 4 years ago, initially I struggled to be on board with SF because I did not understand the concept, nor was I trained in SF or social work. So however, after being exposed to SF through individual and group supervisions and sent for training, so the SF effect got rubbed onto me, and subconsciously I started to use it. So like iron sharpens iron, team dynamics, peer influences plays a very important role to gain mastery over SF. This is why our boss, Joe, he puts in a lot of effort to use it during team meetings and sending us for trainings and using it with our practice for use. And onto the third team. Now onto the last team, right? Practitioners need to apply SF skillfully. So this implies looking for cues and prompts to apply SF tools like the miracle and scaling questions, and being able to apply it skillfully at the right timing to maximize its effectiveness. So here's a feedback in this slide. It's about how to lead them to find a solution. It's about believing that the individual already has a solution and journeying and leading them to find the solutions which are within themselves. So how then can we lead the clients to find these solutions? As seen in the next slide, before we can even embark on this journey, we need to help them find that glimpse of hope so that they can come up with their solutions. So one of them said is they already have these resources within themselves, and it's about drawing these resources, the possibilities and strengths that gives clients hope. And so they are able to come up from there, they are able to come up with their own solutions. So as mentioned by another participant in the next slide, he or she says when client sees hope, this motivates them towards their goal. It's about working with the clients and inspiring hope, which is a prerequisite for clients to come up with their own solutions. How then can we inspire these clients to see this hope? So in the next slide, some mention is about these questions that inspire them, which is one of them, which is the miracle question. Here's an experience by the practitioner who used the miracle question with the client. So it was a very negative client where he was spiraling down really deep, and he decided to spring the miracle question on him, and it worked just for that few minutes. But in that moment, and before he started spiraling again, but in that moment he saw hope, which was impactful. So being able to ask the client the miracle question at the right timing is important. It's about the how and the when you ask the questions. So another participant also tried the miracle question on a client. The client was also very negative and was unable to break out of the problem cycle. Then 1 or 2 questions down, the practitioner tried the miracle question. She was reluctant at first, but then after much persuasion, she decided to flow along, and it was nice to be able to imagine a better situation, and it was very impactful for her. So personally, for me, I think working with youth at risk is a challenge to actually ask miracle questions, because a lot of times they would actually say, I don't know, or I don't know how to imagine. So sometimes I guess it can be like a dance with them. Sometimes it's like 1 step forward, and then you can take two steps back, and they start all over again. So it's really journeying with the client, staying with them, and really believing that they have the solutions in themselves. So is onto the next slide. It is really about like a dance. It takes timing, technique, and skillfulness in applying these tools. So to summarize this, SF takes a lot of practice and needs everyone to be on board, and takes skill to know how and when to apply it in practice. So with all these findings, we will be embarking on phase 2 of the research, which I will now hand over the time to Jin Yao to share more. Jin Yao.
Right, thanks, Joanna. As Joanna very eloquently summarized, that's phase 1. But the team got together and said, why stop at phase 1? Because the training was done, late last year, early this year, and we interviewed the practitioners sometime in February and March. But we're interested in a few other questions as well. And so the phase 2 research is really interested in 2 purposes. The first purpose is, how is it that practitioners implement and perceive SFBT after training, and not just right after training, a few months after, but over a period of time, say 6 to 7 months. The other interesting thing is that, hey, why stop at the practitioners? We want to understand how the youth beneficiaries with whom Reach works with, how do they perceive these practices? And so we want to understand these from these 2 perspectives. Next slide, please. So as you see, those 2 purposes tie to the first 2 research questions we have here. So the 3 research questions, the first is, how do practitioners continue to apply SF practice in their work with the beneficiaries? In this case, it will be the youth we are interested in, and this maps on to the first purpose we talked about. Now, the second part will be how to use, perceive, and evaluate their interactions with the practitioners. So not just interested in the practitioners, but also from the youth perspective. And the interplay between these 2 research questions leads us to the third research question, which is, what are the similarities and differences in the perception of SF utilization between practitioners and the youth themselves? So we hear not just from the practitioners, but also from the youth. So that's a unique contribution that we're hoping to do through the second phase. Next slide. So how are we going to do it? So we're going to have, similar to the first phase, in-depth semi-structured interviews guided by constructivist grounded theory. There'll be 16 practitioner beneficiary dyad or triads. It's a dyad if we are matching 1 practitioner to 1 youth, so the youth that he or she or they work with. And then it's a triad if it's 1 practitioner to 2 youth, so 2 youths with whom the practitioner works with. So we want to understand, as we mentioned, the youth workers, which is the practitioners, and the beneficiaries, which are the youths themselves. Next slide. And so this will be the rough timeline of how we will implement this. So from the beginning of this year, we've been working hard on this. We're currently seeking IRB approval from the National University of Singapore. So we're hoping to start interviews in September. As Joe mentioned in the beginning, this research is funded by the Austrian Solutions Circle. So that gives us the funding to transcribe and to compensate the participants. So we hope to analyze in October and share the findings, hopefully in a similar setting, or if not in one of our own settings in November or December at the end of the year. And so what's the implication of this? Now, doing research is good because, we can only improve what we can measure. And if we don't measure, we don't know what we are improving. So, as Joe mentioned very eloquently in the beginning, we are undertaking this research to look at how we can increase the effectiveness of the programs that run within REACH itself first. But hey, again, why stop there? Because if REACH is one of the pioneers in doing this groundbreaking research and understanding implementation science and how SFBT is implemented within the agency, then that begets this opportunity to share best practices with other youth serving agencies, hopefully starting with Singapore first, but then expanding in Southeast Asia and in Asia, and hopefully in a broader context as well. And so I have the honor right now of, so that concludes our presentation, and we deliberately left about 20 minutes at the end so that we can entertain any questions, and I will be moderating the session itself. So there are a few ways you can get your questions across. The first way, if you're comfortable with, feel free to unmute your mic and ask a question to any of the presenters or any of us. The other way, if you're more comfortable typing, feel free to type in the chat box, and I'm happy to direct the questions and moderate for the next 23 minutes that we have. Right. So let's see if there are any questions. Feel free to use the group chat or unmute yourself. Are there any questions from the floor? The participants?
Or any comments? Yeah, please really feel free to comment how we can do
Hi.
that. Yeah.
Hi, I'd like to know a little bit, this phase 2 of the research is very exciting. And I'd like to know a little bit more. As you said, if we don't measure, we don't know what we are improving. How are you measuring, or what specifically are you measuring in regards to the impact on the youth that the solution-focused breath therapy has been worked with or applied with?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. Thanks, Catherine. That's a great question because so Timothy and I, we've been working on the literature review, and that's always difficult because with the practitioners, they'll be very familiar with SF and SFBT because they've been trained in it. But how would the youth perceive, so how do you do that? There are a few ways in which the existing research has done it. So the first way would be to ask the youth to describe, and the last time they've had a memorable experience with a youth worker, for instance, right? And this depends on the order, right? So this depends on whether we talk to the youth worker first or the youth first. And the predilection right now is to talk to the youth worker first, because then we can ask, based on experiences shared by the youth workers, how the youth perceive those experiences. It's a great question as to what are we measuring. I'll be honest and say what we're measuring really depends on what the youth mentioned, because I think it's important to use the space to use themselves and see what they prioritize. They might not use the language of solution focused, but some of the terms they use would be interesting, and that's what we want to kind of discover and fill the space with as well, and hear directly from the youth themselves. Yeah. Thank you for the question. I think this is a question that is from Kevin. I think this is maybe a question from Joe and maybe Debbie. So the question here is, SF is designed for all audiences. So could you elaborate a bit more on what specifically you have found to be effective when working on serving youth specifically?
Okay, I can answer this. So what we have found to be effective, right, is that because SF is really pretty simple and straightforward. Yeah, so in terms of the training and the learning of the model and the approach, it's actually pretty simple. So for the part of the learning by the practitioner, the process isn't that complicated. Okay, the more challenging part of it is actually the application. So it's easy to learn, but actually it takes a lot of discipline to apply. So, and then with the young person, so the one that is on the receiving end, so because SF is simple, okay, the tools are simple. Scaling question, exception question, relationship question. So these are very simple, and like what just now earlier Timothy shared in terms of the review, is within this Asian context is actually very good, because our Asian context, our clients, they like something more pragmatic. Yeah. So when we work and we deal with parents, they like it. Yeah, because we are actually going straight to the point, to what they want, what is important to them. So we found that really, really very helpful. And yeah, and because SF, as you all know, it really began and stemmed from solution-focused brief therapy. So as the word suggests, it is already designed in a way that is meant to be brief. Okay, so therefore, for this youth segment and population is even better, because they are, I mean, they don't have time to spend, and they don't want to sit down with you for 10 over sessions for therapy. Yeah, so yep. And there's one more question actually by Nicola. What is a miracle question? Maybe can I invite Debbie to do this?
Okay, I also want to just build a little bit on what Joe said. So I was thinking about this excellent question about how do we measure its effectiveness with youth. I think oftentimes with youth, especially service users in a social service agency setting, is we might tend to see them as problematic or as needing to be fixed, or that kind of problem orientation. And I think it's really important that the workers stand on the bedrock of SF practice, which I believe is our belief, our philosophy, our assumptions. So there's a lot of emphasis on what do we believe, what is the space that we hold when we're working with youth. And you probably know where I'm coming from, because the philosophy and the mindset is more important than any technique or skill. So it's helping the client, helping the youth to be curious and interested on what is the future, what is the hope that they want, what is it they want to build or create, rather than viewing them in terms of the problematic past, but what is the kind of future hope that they want. The miracle question. It's one of the interesting features of solution-focused practice, and maybe I don't know of any other approach actually that uses the miracle question in the way that Insoo and Steve developed it. However, other approaches do engage in kind of a visioning or imagination of what a future might look like. The unique thing about the miracle question was developed by Insoo. And I just have to tell the story because when I trained with her, she told the story and it really made sense to me. In the US, where her and Steve developed solution-focused practice, one day a client came. She was depressed and suicidal. She was Asian, Asian American, Korean American, and on the last thread, and somehow got into a conversation with Insoo about how life wasn't worth living and she was going to kill herself, and just distraught. And as she's talking, she's describing her dreaded future, which is no hope, and she wants children, she wants a family, she wants to have love. And the only way that she would have these things is if she was tall, blonde, and blue-eyed, which is impossible, right? Physiologically, being Asian, dark hair, brown-eyed, maybe shorter physiologically. And so this impossible picture of tall, blonde, and blue-eyed emerged. And the client continues, of course, Insoo is listening, fascinated. And the client continues, and the only way that I would be able to have what I want is if I was tall, blonde, and blue-eyed, and well, it would take a miracle for that. And Insoo says, oh, supposing a miracle did happen, what difference would that make? And then the client starts to get sort of glassy-eyed, as one does when they become entranced and mesmerized, and that's kind of what evokes in a person is a kind of trance-like state. And they start to she started to describe her life as she would like it to be. And then somewhere along the line, she said, well, I guess it doesn't take a miracle for that to happen. And Insoo and her started to engage with, oh, so what are you thinking? And the client starts to see there's possibilities, that it doesn't take this miracle, that there are actually things that she could do that are maybe things that she can sort of hope for and engage in. So it redirected or reformatted her brain. And we talk about the neuroscience. That's a really hot thing right now. The SF is about rewiring or redirecting a person's neural pathway. So it's redirecting how a person starts to describe their narrative. I'm going to stop there because does that sort of answer your question about the miracle?
I think it was asked in the chat, so we'll check in and we'll keep it open if someone asks. This another question from Xiu Chong. It's interesting to note that the Asian context of face fits well into SF. Will there be limitations, therefore, for cultures that are self-deprecating, like the British, in the application of SF? So I was wondering, I think maybe Joe and Debbie again, because the both of you are the experts on this.
Where is that question posted so I can read it again?
It's on the chat, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is from Xiu Chang, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it's a question about, context and culture.
Joe, do you want to address that or do you want me to?
I mean, from what I know and my interactions with colleagues from all over the world that's practicing SF, there isn't actually a limitations. I guess the sensitivity towards the different cultures and practices will need to be present, just as how we are sensitive in the Asia context.
The way that I want to address this idea is I think the idea of face or losing face is about respect and honor, which is a really important theme in the Asian context. I think also important themes in any context, right? We want respect and we want to maintain honor. There's also this sense in which we talk about the affirm or how we acknowledge people's accomplishments, and the British laugh because they say you have to almost insult us before we can accept a compliment. So there are different cultural aspects in which the nuances of SF practice or conversation happens. I think the idea of saving face that seems to be discussed about it being unique in Asia, I want to push back on that just a little bit because I think this idea of honor maybe is something that all cultures deal with. It just shows up in different ways. So I want to put that question back to you, Xiu Chang, since it was your question. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I asked the question because it is actually quite evident in Asian culture that particularly if you are dealing with people of age, that you need to be careful how you speak because face does matter. And in different countries there are different extents though, but it does matter. But there are also cultures that they kind of almost apologize for anything, right? So to them it's maybe that's the way to appear so-called more humble, indication of humility or something. So I'm not sure whether it will in any way affect the effectiveness of SF in the different cultures, or do we have to adapt?
Jin Yao, is it okay if I continue?
Go ahead, and I think after Debbie, maybe I saw Catherine trying to jump in as well. So Debbie, go ahead first.
So thank you for clarifying a little bit more around the idea of face. And what I'm hearing then is the idea of kind of a hierarchical view, the losing face in terms of how you relate to kind of a hierarchy of age and of position within a family or within, am I getting that right, Suchong?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
I agree with you. In Asian cultures, it's very, very important that you pay attention to the hierarchy and the position you are in a family and the all of those things. And maybe in Western cultures, it's viewed differently. But I don't think we can address the whole thing here. But thank you for raising that. I'm thinking about that.
Maybe I can invite Catherine to jump in.
Yeah, thank you for letting me share. As I mentioned previously, I've had the privilege of working in Singapore for over 5 years now, nearly 6 years, working with child protection sector there, both with MSF and child protection service centres, and also that's how I became, a colleague of Joe's as well, because of the great work they were doing, solution-focused work in Singapore. And we were implementing, or still are, implementing a solution-focused practice framework there. So I've had significant experience in Singapore, also in other countries around the world, and Australia. So it's been my experience that solution-focused inquiry crosses a lot of those cultural boundaries. And of course, everywhere that you practice it, it must sit within the context of the culture. For example, with many Australian Aboriginal people, shame is a big factor in their culture. And so we work within the culture, and the application of solution-focused inquiry and principles, I believe, and it's been my experience, is cross-cultural. It can work anywhere. I've worked with people from Europe, from the UK, everywhere around the world. I've had the privilege of doing that. So I think it crosses those cultural boundaries. And I've also seen it cross, in Singapore, actually cross boundaries, those boundaries of age and respect. Many child protection workers using this practice framework in Singapore are straight from university. They're young practitioners, and they're skilled up with solution-focused inquiry in their training, and they're going in and working with family members of all ages, young, middle-aged and elderly, and bringing them together in a solution-focused way to address the challenges that their families are facing. So I just wanted to add that from my perspective in regards to the cultural, the cross-cultural impact of using solution-focused inquiry.
Thank you so much. We're having a good discussion about context and culture. Debbie had a great sharing about INSU and the miracle question, and we talked about the application and use. There's a question now also on the question is, some young people I see from mainland China truly struggle with imagining a preferred future. I think it's not factual enough. Any ideas about how to move around this? So this is a private question, so I'll probably repeat this. The question here is, some young people I see from mainland China truly struggle with imagining a preferred future. I think it is not factual enough. Any ideas about how to move around this? So open to anyone on the panel or the presenters, or anyone who is in the room actually.
Yeah. Maybe can I invite my team to actually share, because one of the group of people that we work with is are those that is in the prison system. So
go ahead.
Yeah. So when we actually ask, it's a bit impossible to ask the miracle question, the whole version of it. Yeah, because many of them are actually not very educated. So can I invite Derek, who is doing a lot of prison group work. So can you share your experience when you ask a miracle question, a variation of it? Derek?
Quite far away. I heard miracle question.
Yeah. Can you share in the prison group work, situation or context? How do we ask, or how do we, have a variation of the miracle question? What's your experience?
Well, I mean, as everyone has mentioned earlier, culture is very, very important. So you have to first understand the lingo of the people you're dealing with. Yeah, and then you just have to modify along the way to the to for it to be really effective. Yeah. So you may even end up using their dialect as well. Yeah. So understanding your client, yeah, and understanding their background is the most important way to use the miracle question effectively. Yep.
Yep. Hope that answers.
And
Yeah.
may I just jump in real quick? Is that okay? The miracle question has to fit in the context of the conversation. It's an opportunity for you to work with the client in a way that they can imagine some kind of hopeful movement forward or some kind of hopeful future. So you can't just spring the miracle question on a client until a conversation's already starting to develop in that area. So when a client can start to imagine the possibility, the likelihood that things can get better, then a miracle question can be useful. So it has to fit in the flow and in the context of the person's life.
Yeah.
And when a young person cannot, or even someone in prison as a good example, cannot imagine yet that things can get better, then the miracle question is not going to work well. So it's a way of engaging. Suppose things could improve, even just a little bit. Supposing when you get out of prison and the time is right and you're ready. But if they can't imagine that, then the miracle question is not appropriate.
Yeah.
Thank you, Debbie. I know we have 2 minutes left, and I want to give Joe the final word so they can, just one word from me in the chat box as well. If you want to receive the resources we mentioned at the beginning of the session, do drop the email there, and then we will follow up from there. I'm afraid we've run out of time for questions, but I'll let Joe have the final 2 minutes, and then we can follow up from there. Over to you, Joe.
Yep, thank you. So yes, can I have back the slides? The last, second last slide. So I know we did mention a little bit about the resources and yeah, so I just want to share with everybody, this has been something that we actually have developed previously. So yep, very happy to share with you guys. This is what we actually did. So we actually created a youth resource pack. So this whole package is actually consisting of tools and worksheets and so basically things that you can actually use with a young person in whatever context, okay, whether you are doing individual work one-to-one or you're doing group work or you're doing it in the education setting or in the therapy setting or in the rehabilitation setting. So we actually developed this e-resource pack, okay, it's an online version, yeah, so it's a PDF format. So you can actually go into it, which we will share with you guys. We have actually the English version and we have the Polish version. Yeah, so interestingly, we have a Polish version. Okay. Secondly is we have this infographics that we actually developed for this phase 2 research. Yep. So we will be sharing with you all just a quick overall summary of what we have presented today. Yep. So these are the things that we'll be sharing and sending to you all after this session. So if you would like to, the resource pack is actually already shared in the Zoom chat box. You can actually download it there. Okay. But no worries. We'll also be emailing it out to everybody. Yeah. So finally, the last slide is this is our contact details that you can actually continue to stay with us. Next slide, please. For our youth programs and youth services. Okay, so really in this day and age, I think everything is online, everything is social media. So we are actually very active on the social media front. And we have a very, very fantastic team and I must say colleague, Frank, can you say hi? She's our social media manager.
Hello.
Okay, so we actually have we are on Facebook, we're on Instagram, And the website of the Rich Community Services Society is also there, and our email is there. So please continue to connect with us, and really we would like to share with you all and also learn from your practices, your ideas to engage young people even better. Okay, so thanks everybody for your time here this morning, evening, or afternoon. Yeah, so I want to honor your time, and we shall end here.
Thank you so much, everyone. I think we'll hang around for a bit if you have questions, but stay safe, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be around. So you want to yeah, post any questions, ask any questions, you can stay back.
When the research is finished, can you email a copy?
Yes, yes, we will. Winsome, actually, in fact, we are thinking of writing this research piece out on the solution focus, the Journal of Solution Focus. Yeah, so we're thinking. So once we actually get it down, get it out, then we definitely want to share this with the community.
Excellent, excellent. Love the idea.
Yeah, thank you.
We actually don't have a group in Jamaica, and I'm hoping to start one or inspire something for one.
Yes, you should.
Yeah. Thanks.